yesterday we read the words of the President of the United States of 2051,
Which is
Gabriella Jackson Hale.
What year was Hunger Games?
I don't know.
some way in the future.
Is it the same time?
Way in the future, the world ended, pretty much.
No.
Yeah, I don't think they say
No.
when the Hunger
I
Games
don't have the second one.
took
I
place.
read the book.
The worst pirate in the universe. Leo's world had always been a little alien. He was only 2 when the Ikari made first contact. He had no memory of being huddled around the television watching their arrival with his brother did. He had no recollection of a world without spaceships and jump drives and translator chips. He had no idea what coal was used for or how paper was made, but by age 8, he knew how an artificial gravity generator worked, sort of, and could list the steps required to terraform a hostile planet. He couldn't imagine a world without aliens because his world had always been filled with them. He could remember his father reading his favorite picture book, Hello, Humans, over and over, though. A pop-up book that told about the day the Ikari first came to Earth. The cardboard pictures of New York and Beijing high-rises snapping to life tickled Leo almost as much as pulling the tab and watching the glittering Ikari cruise ship across the page like a silver bullet. The comical-looking alien at the end, spindly arms extended for a welcoming embrace, was a little startling, but the smile on its face suggested everything would be just fine. Of course, the real Ikari didn't smile. Their mouths didn't work like that. There were tiny circles that opened and closed like irises, letting out words that the way our eyes let in more light. The only way to know if an Ikari was pleased was if its diamond-shaped eyes turned blue. If they turned orange, well, that was a different story. In the year 2044, the book began, someone came knocking on Earth's door. It was one of 3 years every school-age kid had memorized, counting their birthday. Everything before that was BC, before contact, before Earth's polluted sky filled with ships of radiant silver. There had been hints of their arrival. Leo would learn in galactic history class. SETI had been issuing reports of increased feedback, potential messages they didn't have the technology to translate. Hubble 5 had caught glimpses of strange objects entering the solar system, but nothing was conclusive. Nothing that could prepare them for what or who was about to come knocking. And then, on the 1-year anniversary of the first Mars landing, with humans still marveling at their own ingenuity and their baby steps into a larger world, they appeared. 100 ships hovering over 100 cities. Leo had seen the vids 1,000 times, had heard his father recount the day in excruciating detail. The military response, the scream of sirens, the flooded streets, the panic fed by too many movies where flying saucers fried national monuments with blasts of nuclear energy and bug-like xenomorphs fed on the brains of fleeing Earthlings. But it was nothing like that. The Ikari broadcast their message in every earthly language so that no one would misunderstand. Do not fear, they said. We are friends. That was it at first. Those 2 proclamations, though many more followed in the days and weeks to come. Revelations to a shocked and anxious planet. That we humans were only one of hundreds of civilized species in the galaxy. That all our wildest dreams about interstellar travel were about to come true overnight. Bless you. And that our planet, the lovely blue and green marble called Earth, contained a treasure more precious than we ever dreamed of. Ventasium. Loads of it. Heaps of it. Deep in the planet's crust. And they, the Ikari, would show us how to use it. And with it all came the stark realization that humans were once again Neanderthals fashioning axes out of flint. With their ships capable of traveling from star to star and weapons that seemed lifted straight out of pulp paperbacks and summer blockbusters, the Ikari were technologically superior in every way. The one thing the people of Earth had to offer them that the planet itself had to offer, the visitors could have easily taken by force. But they didn't. They asked nicely. Share your Ventasium, they said, and we will be your personal escorts into this great big universe. and humanity did the only thing it could do in that situation. It said, okay. Only later did the people of Earth realize that the Ikari weren't the only ones interested in its resources, that Fantasium was the hottest commodity in the galaxy. Some, like the Jarek, started wars over it. Others simply stole it and traded it on the black market. Those others were called pirates. Leo had heard stories of pirates growing up, not Captain Kidd and Jack Sparrow, though he'd heard of them too, but actual pirates. A disorganized mob of criminals from every corner and crevice of the galaxy who trolled through trading routes, disabling freighters with ion cannons and blasting their way through airlocks, brandishing pistols in both hands as they made their demands. They never said "arg" or flew the skull and bones, but they lived by the same basic code as the pirates from the books. Take whatever you can, wherever you get it. The devil take the rest. The Ikari mostly considered pirates to be a nuisance. Leo knew outcasts and outlaws who, for one reason or another, refused to be part of the Ikari-led coalition of planets. Occasionally, the Ikari would report on the execution of a band of buccaneers who had been caught attempting to raid one of their supply ships. But in comparison to the war with the Jarek, the occasional rogue swiping of a few cores of Fantasium was little more than a pest. Why bother swatting mosquitoes when you're dealing with a hornet's nest? Except the mosquitoes were multiplying. If the stories Leo heard were to be trusted, more and more creatures of every stripe were turning into piracy. For some, the cost of Fantasium was too dear to acquire it through honest means. For others, it was a chance to make a tidy profit, playing one side against the other and selling the universe's most precious commodity to the highest bidder. Some, Leo suspected, just wanted to watch the universe burn. Whatever the reason, Leo knew that pirates were not to be trusted. At best, they were outsiders, turning their back on the coalition and everything it stood for: peace and order and cooperation. At worst, they were thugs, thieves, and murderers. Either way, they weren't the kind of people Leo ever wanted to meet. Leo skidded to a stop just inside one of the hangar doors, his sweaty hands still clutching his brother's. His eyeballs popped. What the heck is that thing? Leo had encountered many different starships over the years. Hulking cruisers, sleek skiffs, solar yachts, the massive box-shaped barges that the Ikari used to transport its shipments of excavated Fantasium from Earth. He'd seen military fighters and civilian pleasure boats, but he'd never seen anything quite like the ship sitting in front of him. It was shaped funny for starters, like a giant eggplant or maybe a pear, tapered at the front but spreading out in the rear, perhaps to make room for more cargo. Twin foils jutted from either side and extended past the center cockpit like walrus tusks, an unusual modification for what appeared to be a freighter, and a small freighter at that, but not a helpless one. Unlike the Beagle, this pirate ship carried plenty of firepower. Torpedo bays, front-mounted cannons, a turret in its belly. It also sported 3 standard propulsion engines in addition to the FTL drive ring, which meant it could probably move when it needed to. The ship looked like it had been through some tight scrapes, judging by the scorch marks etched along its hull. It was easily 4 times the size of the damaged shuttle and filled up half the Beagle's hangar. It's so yellow, Gareth finished for him. True, Leo had never seen a yellow ship before, though the paint was stripped in places, revealing dingy grays and rusted reds underneath. Of course, Leo had never seen a pirate ship before either, not up close. Maybe this was what they looked like. Leo's initial impression of pirates came from the official coalition information vids he saw growing up. The message was always delivered in the same monotone, mechanical voice. Piracy is a crime. The coalition is dedicated to the safety and security of all its member planets. Any pirate caught attacking a coalition ship will be persecuted to the full extent of Ikari law.